Welcome back to another episode of the Writer's Hive, where we attempt to demystify the writing and publishing process to create a writer's hive mind. As always, I have Julie and Amber with me, and today we are talking about your book package, which includes query letters, synopsis, and your actual book for Twitter contests, for online contests, and also for querying agents. So we have a wide breadth of information about these book packages, but they are very important if you want to catch an agent's eye. So we're going to start off with Julie and her experiences and how you can use them to get your book published.
Awesome. So there is a lot that goes into query packages and prepping your book for any kind of event. So we wanted to kind of speak to a whole bunch of different topics, but in terms of your query package, what I've found personally to make your process as easy as humanly possible, and this is not going to be a how to write a query letter or how to do that kind of a video, because that will take a little bit more time. We'll probably do that separately. So what I think is really helpful is having your packages ready to go. And by that, I mean having maybe a folder on your desktop or within a query folder that has your query letter, synopsis, first chapter, query letter, synopsis, and first 3 chapters, first 25 pages, first 50 pages. And if you have those already ready to go, you're in a much better place when you get asked for your packet. And then that way you're not going into like your main document and trying to pull X amount of pages back and forth. A lot of the times my first 5 chapters might also fall within a page count request. So then I'll just have that one folder for both of those requests. But just know that you're going to need to break down your book, your synopsis, your query letter for different kinds of agents. So having those already pre-prepared is really helpful. But you definitely want to have your query letter, your synopsis, and also, some of those page breakdowns prior to engaging in these events, because the turnaround can be pretty quick. I know that personally, when I have participated in online pitch contests, I want it to move as fast as possible. They're getting a lot of submissions on those days. So as they go through and they like things and people are submitting, the sooner I can get in there, the better, because then I'm going to, hopefully they are working in like when the email came in time frame. But again, all agents work differently. Also, I would say from a personal standpoint, I've participated in pitmad, I think 5 times now. And I've been really lucky that I've had agent likes along each one of my different journeys. So what I will say is it's really exciting, but definitely stop, take a pause, and see what you think of that agent and that agency before submitting. Just because they liked something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great fit for you. I'm of the mindset that I will always go ahead and follow through and pitch my book, and then I can always say no down the line. But if you know right off the bat that it's not going to be a fit for you, then you might be able to save yourself a little bit of trouble. Also, totally fine. Again, it's exciting to get that but taking a second, researching your agent, making sure that you can include something a little personal with your query letter is always worth that extra minute. There's been times where an agent has liked my tweet and then I go to my query tracker list and that agent's already on my list. So I was already going to query that agent. Now I have a warm query. I can go in and say, you liked my tweet during pitmad, really excited to get this book into your hands. You're an agent that I've been wanting to work with. Really excited that you liked the pitch. Here's my book. I've had everything from just give me your query letter, just give me your query letter and synopsis, to can you please send me the full book? And I have gotten requests for fulls off of my pitmad participation, which is amazing. One of those did come after I'd already sent my query letter and synopsis. So they did have a little bit of reason to request. But again, it's always nice to have an in when you're querying. So I will say that there were times where I would take a look at an agent and realize that either they didn't have any professional sites, they weren't linked to an agency, they weren't somebody that was on Query Tracker or Publishers Marketplace. There's no record of them. I would say definitely Google them, If you're a member of Query Tracker, check them out, see who their clients are, see what they're responding to right now. It's easy to get excited that somebody wants your manuscript, but it's also really important that you do your due diligence and look into them a little bit, because there are people that, sure, they might go ahead and say that they're an agent, or they're maybe working with, smaller agencies, and they're brand new and they might not have experience or connections in the publishing world to actually sell your book once they acquire it. And if you sign that contract, the book's going to just kind of get stuck places. So I think that if you're in a position where you're getting ready to query anyway, hopefully you've already done your research, you've looked at some agents, and you know how to spot what may or may not be a legitimate agent and agency, which is not to say that you can't, take a risk. If you want to take a risk on just a query letter and a synopsis, absolutely fine. But maybe just make a note in your query, your own query tracker list or your own notebook, wherever you're keeping track of who you query and when, that, wait and see what they might say about your book. Getting editorial feedback is always great if they're going to offer that, but maybe make a little note to yourself to be cautious if they get back to you that this might be something you want to look into a lot deeper if they're actually interested in the book.
That's a really good information to know, Julie. I've never actually done a pitmad, and I've never actually had a manuscript in a place where I could do a pitmad or where I would feel comfortable doing it. But there are some ways that you can either A, support your author friends, or B, just support other beginning authors overall. So there are some rules that you have to set in place. So you need to advise all of your followers or friends that they shouldn't like the tweet that you send out, because that's specifically for the agents. But you can actually retweet. That helps so much, because then it puts it back, kind of like the more retweets it gets, it kind of puts it up at the top of the list as they're going through the hashtags. So one thing that I would do is first see if your friends are going to do it, and then know what times that they're going to do it, so you can go in and retweet it. And maybe not even right away, maybe give it 30 minutes to get some likes and then go retweet it, so it kind of bumps it up again. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing I can do is just to support other authors is go to the hashtag, or go to add in hashtags of genres that I enjoy and read through some of them. And if you really like them, you can hit the retweet button and you can help them out so that people can see them. Another thing that I have done, even though I haven't actually done it myself, is help Julie research and figure out how to do her tweets. And so the thing with pitmad is you have to fit everything within that, 160 character template that you have for Twitter. So if you go to the pitmad website, and I'm assuming we're going to link it down below for everybody if they want easy access to go see it. They do have a lot of their qualifications, things that you need to do, the hashtags that you can use. And so the more hashtags you can fit into your tweet, I think the better. So you can have the pitmad hashtag. And if you have, let's say you have a YA, you could put YA. If it's fantasy, you could put fantasy. If your own voices, you could put own voices. If it has disability rep, if it has, some sort of LGBTQIA plus rep, anything like that you can add into that helps. It does take away the amount of words that you can actually use for the tweet. So the more that you can hone in your pitch to the smallest amount of words, and still have that punch, that impact to make people want to go, oh, I need this on my shelves right now, the better, because then agents are going to see that and go, oh, people are going to want this on their shelves. I really want to know more about this, and then they'll like it. Another thing that you can do is you can tweet up to 3 times within the day. And I would suggest coming up with 3 completely different tweets. I wouldn't tweet the exact same thing 3 times. Maybe, for instance, if you have a YA fantasy own voices, maybe in one tweet, you can really focus on it being YA fantasy. And then in the next tweet, you can hone in more on oh, this is an own voices, and kind of show the marginalization that you're representing or something like that. And then, the next one, it can just be more fun and say, oh, this is a really fun read, or it's a really emotional read. Just ways that different agents will maybe say, oh, I really want something that's fun and happy. And they see your first 2 tweets and they don't see that. But then your third one, they're like, ooh, that sounds fun and happy, and then they'll like it. Things like that can really help get your pitch noticed. So I would definitely recommend going to the website and checking out everything they have. And then another thing to prepare is you can actually go to the hashtag, and the old tweets from previous ones, because they do it every quarter, are still out there. So you can go, let's say you can go to the thriller one and see how people that are getting a lot of likes from agents, how they are structuring their thriller tweet. And then you can kind of see the type of like keywords that everybody is using, the type of like punchy lines, especially with thrillers, because it needs to be very punchy and really show that you're going to have like a twist in there and things like that, which obviously if it's a thriller, but that's one way. And I wouldn't copy anybody, of course, because your story is going to be completely different, but you can see how the people that have structured it and that have been successful, like how to really hone in on your own story. And actually, I think that if you're a Save the Cat person, there's a section in Save the Cat that has like your elevator pitch. That can also, if you use that template, can be like a jumping point to really honing something. There's so many resources out there to help you get that tweet in the right amount of characters. Just make sure you do enough. Don't the day before decide you're going to do it. Like really give it a week or two to do the research and get it ready to go.
And then also in terms of the tweets, I found that having comp titles is really helpful. A lot of tweets will have that at the top. So maybe it's like Buffy X Gossip Girl. It can be books, it can be authors, it can be TV shows, pop culture. Try to stay current. I've seen a lot of people use comp titles from a while back that might not be as relevant now, or a lot of people using Twilight and Harry Potter, which people understand, but also agents are probably not necessarily looking for the next Twilight anymore. I know vampires are making a resurgence, but comparatively, are you going to be the next J.K. Rowling or Stephanie Meyer? Probably not. So try to pick comp titles that work for you, work for your story. I've used an author and a title from a different author. I've used television shows. I've used actual just like titles. So try to hone in on your comps. You're going to need to have those comp titles anyway. So including those can really be helpful. Again, every character matters. So really hone it in. And then I've also found it really helpful to use pitmad after the fact to look at agents. So I can look up, you have to use the hashtag pitmad. So if you use the hashtag pitmad and then A for adult and F for fantasy, I can go through and see which agents were actually liking tweets, and I can add them to my query list. If I think that there's somebody that I might be interested in querying and I know that they're actively acquiring, which is awesome. You can use it that way. And I've also used it to do a lot of mutual following with other authors who write in a similar genre, which has been really exciting as well. I've been able to make connections on Twitter within the author community and just reach out, support them. I would say as a participating author, also make sure that you're spending time, not just in your hashtag, but in other hashtags as well, resharing other people's tweets. The community is really supportive. So don't just put out your tweets and then be done for the day. Be ready to engage, retweet other authors. The community is there really to help one another. And I have found that it's been really supportive and really, really fun. But definitely prep your followers a couple days ahead of time and just say, I'm going to be participating in pitmad. Please remember to retweet, not like. You're still going to get people that are just excited about your tweet. They're going to be, liking it anyway. It's okay. But if you can prep them, it does help. And then remember to pin your most recent tweet. That's always helpful. And then I will usually leave my most popular pitmad tweet pinned for a couple days afterwards, just in case any agents come after the fact. I don't know if it works, but I do that.
Those are so many great tips on pitmad that I wish I had, previously when I have done it in the past. I have participated. I have not been very successful. I think in the years that I participated, I got one agent and then I changed my book from young adult to adult. So I figured that wouldn't really appeal to them anymore. So I sort of let that go. So in terms of how I'm going to approach this, I really think of it as an important part of the book writing, book production process. The exercises of creating a synopsis for your book, I think 98% of agents prefer to have a synopsis at some point. It's really helpful. That like all of these processes are helpful. Taking part in online contests are helpful because you are learning to hone your craft. In a sense, you're creating that elevator pitch, as what Amber said, and you're going to be able to talk about your book a little more. So as an aside, I did want to say, like, if you are not successful, don't feel too discouraged, because these types of Twitter events get bigger and bigger, and maybe an agent didn't see you, or there was just too many books to look at. But I think this is an important part of the process, because you are just honing your abilities every single time to be able to talk about your book. A lot of authors are not really good at selling themselves, so even just showing, writing out a tweet and then showing it to your friends, your writing friends, or just friends who like to read, you're kind of exposing yourself to criticism, constructive criticism, hopefully, in terms of how to talk about your book a little more. In terms of the synopsis and or query letter, I think this is an important exercise that you can do, because when you are sort of taking a book, and I'm just thinking about novels, so it would be like 50,000 to over 100,000 words, and you have to talk about it in like one page or half a page, you'll be able to spot some errors when you are writing these, because if things don't really make sense to you, they may not be clear to the reader, and you could tweak your book along the way to adjust for that. And you can find plot holes too, like if you have your friends read your synopsis or your query or your tweet and they're confused versus compelled, you can figure out how to tweak a little bit, which will just improve your book and how you talk about it with others. So this is definitely something that I would recommend that every author do. Have certain expectations of these types of events, especially pitmad, because it is so popular. But a lot of the tips that Julie and Amber have mentioned already are fantastic, and just keep them in mind when you're looking to take part.
In terms of having realistic expectations for an event like this, like Kate said, they do get more and more popular as the years go on. And that's completely amazing, because it means that there's a ton of new stories out there. I would say, be patient with agents getting back to you after something like that, because they are getting an influx of submissions that they would not naturally get if they were just being normally queried, which they are still probably doing as well. So they're going to get their average amount as well as whatever influx they're getting from an event like this. I've also had people's assistants like my tweet as opposed to the actual agent themselves. And then it'll go to the agent and they'll be like, it falls within the parameters of what I asked you to like, but it's not actually what I want. I've had that happen as well. Or I've had people that say, this person is liking tweets for the whole agency, and then we'll see which agents are interested. So, the turnaround time on something like that can be a little bit longer than a normal query. Also, just as like a small caution, I have participated, like I said, in a lot of these events, and I've had success in every single one of them, except for the last round, where there was just really no engagement from the agents, at least on my tweets. And I used a book that I'd used prior with great success. So right now, with the state of publishing, I would say if this event does not go the way that you hope it goes, do not lose hope. Do not completely scrap whatever book you're working on, or assume that your tweet or your book is not worthy of attention. Like Kate said, everything is a learning experience. It's helping you hone your query, hone those first pages. I found so many errors after sending out my first pages because I was looking at them a lot closer. I usually work really, really hard on the first 50 pages because that's going to be what gets into an agent's hand first. So it'll at least help you do that. But right now, it tends to be a little bit of a slower pace across publishing in general. So I will say the last round of pitmad was completely unlike any other that I've experienced. And I don't know what this one's going to look like. And I won't personally be participating this particular round. So if it seems like it's a little bit slower, I would say don't panic. It may not be your tweet. It might just be pitmad and publishing right now. It might just be the nature of publishing. So it'll be okay. And it's still a great experience. And it's still a really fun time to connect with other writers that are still, hopeful to publish. So use it for what you can, use it for the networking, use it to, hone your one line, hone your elevator pitch, hone your comps. It's still fantastic experience.
Yeah, I think that if you don't get any tweets or any likes or any retweets, it's not to mean that your book is bad and that your book isn't worthy. So still continue on your journey to query, even if you don't get any likes, because it doesn't mean that people won't like your book. It's just one of those things that maybe other ones just got ahead of yours and people couldn't scroll down, and you never know. It's not a reflection on your book.
All right, so that's it for this episode. We wanted to ask the question of the episode, which is, have you ever taken part in any of these events? And have you found any success? We would love to know. Also, too, in the comments, if you would like to show the tweet that you want to use for this upcoming event or another event, we'd be happy to take a look. In our efforts to create a community, we would love for anyone to sound off, as long as it's a positive experience and offering constructive criticism. We would love to help you out. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Where's the hole? Where's the hole? There it is.
That's what she said.
I look like Bellatrix. Cool.
I mean, now that you say it.